name is Charles Draper. I'm the chairman of the Herschel Society. I'm standing in the Herschel Museum of Astronomy in New King Street, Bath. This is the place where William Herschel discovered the planet Uranus in 1781, and that's what made his name as an astronomer, enabled him to spend the rest of his life doing astronomy rather than the music that he came to Bath to do in the first place. William died 200 years ago in 1822, and so we are using this anniversary to celebrate his astronomy. He was a pioneer of looking at the deep sky. Most astronomy until his time was focused very much on the solar system and the mechanics of how that worked. He wanted to know much more about the world beyond the solar system, and he pioneered that work, both in the telescopes he built and in the way he used them to observe, and his conclusions about the way the universe works. And that makes him a founder of modern astronomy. So our conference at BRLSI on Saturday the 1st of October will focus on his astronomy. It'll talk about his telescopes, the amazing ones he made, and this is a replica of the one he used to discover the planet Uranus, for example. It'll talk about his observations with the telescope, and particularly his pioneering partnership with his sister Caroline to ensure that they could actually work efficiently together. He realised that the way to work best of this was for him to do the observing and for Caroline to do the recording, and that was the beginning of a very modern way of doing science. It will talk about the things he concluded from that, and some of his wackier ideas. He believed, for example, there was life on most bodies outside the Earth, even including the Sun. We'll look at some of the actual records and writings that he and Caroline left, because they're wonderful writing, and we can read them today and enjoy them. And finally, we'll come forward to the present day by looking at the modern space observation craft called Gaia, which is doing fantastic survey work, some of it only very recently released on a vast scale, and in many ways does relate back to the work that William and Caroline were doing all those years ago. William's story is also very closely related, of course, to the story of Caroline Herschel, his sister. William came to England, was a very successful musician, but when he became successful at Bath in the 1770s, he realised that his sister Caroline could help him in many ways. So he went to Hanover to collect her from his mother and brought her here. Caroline here first became managed his house, managed his affairs, and he trained her as a singer and realised she had a very good voice. So she was soon also an excellent singer, and also helped him to organise the teaching and music. But his mind was turning to astronomy and spending more and more time on that, and Caroline inevitably found herself helping with that, though initially it was just doing sort of practical things to help him. William's discovery of planet Uranus changed his life. He could change from being a paid musician to being suddenly a paid astronomer, and he and his household, Caroline too, therefore, left their life in Bath and moved to be near the king and to Slough eventually in 1786. And here Caroline began to do her own astronomy. William showed him how to do various things, and she had her own telescope. But as William's ambitions for astronomy became greater, he sort of realised that the way to actually achieve these most effectively were to change the way he worked, so that he would be the person doing observing, and he would pass the information of what he was seeing down to Caroline, who would record it. And Caroline was a very systematic, very organised person, and she became very good at this. And as time went on, they catalogued 2,500 objects outside the solar system, and did so in a systematic way, and Caroline would order and reorder the information. And that was an extremely successful partnership on astronomy that began the way modern science works, because you have to have both ways of detecting information and recording it. Caroline herself carried on doing astronomy, particularly when William went away on holiday with his wife, and she discovered 8 comets, and she became very well known in her own right. She got a pension from the king for her astronomy, and would deal directly with the Astronomer Royal, and was welcomed at the court. So she's an iconic figure in modern astronomy as one of the first pioneering women who made a name for herself as an astronomer, and we honour her today. We are now standing in the workshop in the Herschel Museum of Astronomy, which William used to actually make the various parts of telescopes. And one very important part of that was the speculum mirrors. Mirrors in those days were not made of glass, because we didn't know how to actually sort of coat the glass reflectively, but a speculum metal, which is a mixture of copper and tin. And as William made bigger and bigger telescopes, he had this the task to try and cast these mirrors of this metal. And he was doing so with quite a big 20-inch size mirror in 1781, when something happened. The mould broke, and the metal spilled out of the mould and landed on the stone floor. And if you have molten metal landing on stones, it is very explosive, and the stones broke up explosively. And William and Alexander's brother, were at some risk from that, and sort of ran out of the house choking. That's one of the nice stories about the museum here, and the nice thing about it is you can still see the broken stone flags on the floor where this incident took place, and that's what ended William's life.